Hi, this is Congressman John Garamendi, once again with our weekly report on what Congress is doing to you. This time around, it is horrendous. Last week I told you that it was probable that the Senate was going to take quick secret action, and try to move a repeal of the Affordable Care Act out of the Senate. Well, now they're well into doing just that. In complete secrecy, they have put together a horrible, horrible bill. Frankly, I do not understand how any member of the Senate or the House of Representatives can vote for a piece of legislation that physically harms Americans. We're not talking about economic, we're not talking about the environment, we're talking about the personal well-being, the personal health of Americans is in jeopardy as a result of the legislation that the Senate will take up next week. And I'm asking you to get involved. You've got to hammer those senators, both those that are going to oppose it, and that's 100% of the Democrats, and you've got to have your friends in those Republican states across this nation call their senators and tell them that no way can this happen. We're talking about half of the children born in the United States are covered under the Medicaid program, and yet the Medicaid program is going to be devastated. $800 billion cut over the next 10 years. It is horrible. Most of the handicapped people, disabled people, and elderly in the United States, those in nursing homes, receive their insurance through the Medicaid program. They're going to be left on the streets. What is going on here? How could they do that? Well, they're determined to end Obamacare, repeal it. Well, they're certainly not coming up with something better. And in addition to that, this is the largest single transfer of wealth ever on any piece of legislation ever. $800 to $1 trillion, $800 billion to $1 trillion will be ripped out of the pockets of the working men and women and the poor from the elimination of their health care coverage and the subsidies that they have had, and directly transferred to the wealthiest Americans. We're talking about the top 10%, and even more so. Our president stands to at least gain a $7 million reduction in his taxes as a result of this legislation, and 4 other members of his cabinet similarly will receive that. We're talking about the super wealthy of this nation, taking money directly away from working men and women, directly away from families, and directly away from the poor, and putting it in their pockets. It is not only horrendous public policy, it is bad economic policy, and it is just plain wrong. And so you've got to help. Anyone that's seen this, reach out to senators, Republican senators, your friends in those states. Tell them to make the calls, tell them to write the letters, tell them to boycott, to protest outside the offices. A wonderful, wonderful protest took place outside the office of Senate Majority Leader. The disabled, men and women in wheelchairs, many of them nearly totally disabled, not boycotted, but they sat in their wheelchairs outside of McConnell's office, and they refused to move. And you may have seen the scene. You may have seen the police officers taking these men and women out of their wheelchair and transporting them to the paddy wagon. We got to stop this. We're counting on you. We'll do our part, but if this thing passes the Senate, they're going to slam bang it right out of the House and to the President, and by the end of next week, the devastation will have occurred. The great transfer of wealth will be underway, and we'll see people without health care, 23 million minimum. Please, please, do your piece. I'll do mine. My Democratic colleagues will also. But we got to count on the public pushing back. Please do it.